Hey, Brainiac. If you love mystery or love to know about history, then you will know about this killer, Jack the Ripper, London's most elusive killer who killed one after another, but the police did not find him. So now the question is, how did Jack the Ripper remain elusive? So before we jump in, make sure you subscribe me and press the bell icon. Give a like to this video and leave a comment about which topic you want to hear about next. So let's find the killer. Just imagine you were a policeman in Victorian London, entering a job few days ago, but your peace did not last long because the most prolific killer in history has taken his first victim, Mary Ann Nichols. On Friday 31st August 1888, at Whitechapel, her body was found. Nichols had last been seen alive approximately 1 hour before her body was found, and no one knows who killed her. The manner of killing is very brutal. You might be wondering what happened. After a week like this, another dead body was discovered. By identification, it is known that her name is Annie Chapman. The killing pattern is same, so you might think the killer is the same, and you start looking for motive. But when you don't get anything, after 3 weeks, the killer starts his game again. On 31st September 1888, wait, this time not one, but 2 bodies are discovered. Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes. They both killed in 30th September 1888. It doesn't end here. His last victim is yet to come. But there is a difference here. So far, all the bodies have been found on the road, but the last victim's body was found in the room. The last victim, known as Mary Jane Kelly. Now picture this. 5 murders have been committed, but the killer has yet to be found. The evidence is only these dead bodies, which not only killed but also mutilated. Anyway, supposedly Mary Jane Kelly was the Ripper's last victim. Then the killer disappears. According to many, the killer may have died or been incarcerated somewhere else or left the country. Although these 5 murders were followed by 4 more murders in Whitechapel. They are the Rose Millet, Alice Mackenzie, Pinchin Street Torso, and Frances Coles. The police have strong evidence. These murders are not the Ripper, because although the 5 murders are similar, they are different. However, various files related to this murder's case were destroyed due to Blitz. The Blitz was the German bombing of the United Kingdom during the Second World War. The surviving files show us that at that time, the police of London went from house to interrogate, collect documents to find his murderer. More than 2,000 people were questioned and £500 reward was announced for the killer, which will now be £41,024, but nothing worked. Believe it or not, many others including the police were wrong about this, and as a result, the killer remained unaccounted for. The case of this murderer is very old. Now that murderer is not alive, so finding him is more difficult now. That time in London, there was 2 types of police forces, the Metropolitan Police and City of London Police. They both started investigating, but neither would share any information with anyone. As a result, he was able to escape. London police was very weak at the time. Forensics did not exist at the time, so they relied on only evidence, which could be evidence left behind by the killer. At the time, there was no blood matching tool. Even with handprint, there was nothing to match. They did not preserve the crime scene. They only relied more on eyewitnesses. On the other hand, according to many sources, there was an intelligence department called CID in London at the time, but they were just set. They had little experience with serial killers. Murder was very rare in London at first, as by 1887, there was only 80 murders in London, and none of them happened at Whitechapel. As a result, their experience was really low, so maybe Jack the Ripper was able to escape. And let me tell you, there was no such thing as Jack the Ripper. I mean, the murderers were real, the killer were real, but the killer's name wasn't Jack the Ripper. It was given the name by a journalist, so that his paper would sell well. The 5 victims, 5 murders suffered from poverty. There was no one to help them. Every murder was committed by Jack the Ripper or the killer on the dark street of London. Of course, there was no electric lights then. There were no street lights either. Some rich people had street lights in front of their houses, which ran on oil, but the poor were not in the area. Due to pitch darkness, you cannot easily see the killer. which opportunity was well used by the Jack the Ripper. Spending days in the slums of Whitechapel was miserable, so prostitution was the only job for many women. Harassment of women was common then, and prostitutes were looked down upon in society. So even if something bad happened to them, or if they were killed, many people at the time did not care. The police often did not take their cases, so it was very easy to kill them. But if the women were upper class or wealthy, then the case would be more advanced, or police would catch Jack the Ripper. So why the existence of Jack the Ripper was not found? Although there are many reasons for this, the main reason is that at the time the whole of Europe was more or less poor, and as the Victorian era grew in industry, many people came from different parts of Europe at the time. London was crowded with strangers, so maybe nobody recognized the killer, or maybe he fled the country after the murder. Do you know what the most interesting thing in this? No one actually cared about the woman Jack the Ripper killed, because his victim didn't have money, didn't have families, and didn't have any social status. So therefore the murder of them wasn't important. They chose prostitution as their job, they sold their bodies for money. So it's sad that no one actually cared about their life and even death. So when no one cared when they were alive, even if they die, who cares? The killer was very brave, and it seems he wanted the police to find him, because he also sent many letters to police or media. But even though there are many problems with that, Dear Boss letter is one of them. So now let's some suspects about him. The first suspect is Montague John Druitt. Montague John Druitt was a barrister who also worked as a schoolmaster. He died after the last murder happened by drowning in Thames. Although many people think he was the killer, but Frederick Everline doesn't think so, because during the first canonical murder, he was in Dorset playing cricket. And police officers think the killer was local to Whitechapel, so the name Montague John Druitt removed from the suspect list. The next gentleman is Joseph Barnet. Well, Joseph Barnet was an interesting person. Not only is it interesting that he was a murder suspect, also he was the last victim of Mary Jane Kelly's lover. They quarreled and separated after Joseph lost his job and Mary returned to the prostitution. Now many authors say that he committed many murders to get Mary out of prostitution, but when he couldn't, he killed Mary in fit of rage. And also, other authors think he wasn't the killer Jack the Ripper. He killed Mary like Jack the Ripper, so that everyone including police thought it was Jack the Ripper's work. The police questioned him for 4 hours, but got nothing. He was then removed from the suspect list. Now you might wonder who actually killed those girls. What if you missed something like who discovered the first body? The first victim's body was discovered by Charles Allen Lakemere, was a van driver for Pickford's company. He was an innocent witness who discovered the body of Mary Ann Nichols. I mean, at least he tried to be innocent. Theory says he killed Mary Ann Nichols and began a process of mutilating the body. Then he heard someone's footsteps, and remember what Lakemere said, when he and Robert Paul looked at Mary Ann Nichols, there was no blood. According to the doctor, it took time for the blood to come out because it was freshly cut throat, and Mary Ann Nichols' wounds were hidden under her clothes, where Jack the Ripper always left open. Lakemere did not want to come to the police until Robert called his name. His upbringing, his career path, all corresponded to these 5 murderers' positions. It was believed that he was responsible for not only these 5, but also more murders. But he never questioned by the police for some unknown reason. Now over the centuries, Jack the Ripper identity is still on debate. The woman who was killed was from low caste, poor areas, and most importantly they were prostitutes. As they were not of high caste, the police did not take their case seriously. On the other hand, when the killer stops killing, the police no longer search efficiently. Maybe many times the killer was close at hand, but for not preserving the crime scene, for not interrogating the real person, the killer remained elusive. On the day of double murder, the bodies were discovered very early. So early that the killer had not gone so far. On the day of the first murder, the murderer who discovered the body. Arguments about Jack the Ripper will always go on. For many mistakes, the killer was not caught. There were not many instruments to investigate, for which the killer got lucky. I will be back again with another such exciting video. Till then, keep watching my other videos on Brainiac. Thanks for watching this video. See you again.